I'm very pleased. My name is Nadeem Farajallah, and I work at the American University of Beirut at the Hassan Faris Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs. I am very happy and privileged to be moderating this most interesting session, which will tackle the acceleration of progress on water-related goals, how we can enable innovation, and what are the innovation enablers. We have a very distinguished panel today, and an interesting presentation to be made by Mr. Karim Hassan, who is the Executive Director of ESCWA's Technology Center. Karim, please, 10 minutes. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. What do you think? Oh, okay. Okay, hello everyone. Thanks a lot, Nadeem, for the introduction. I'll be talking about fostering water innovation in the Arab region. There are 7 main elements for the green innovation journey. If we will consider these 7 elements, we will be able to have a proper enabling environment for fostering innovation. So at ESCWA Technology Center, we investigated the enabling environment and the proper steps for an entrepreneurial and innovative journey. And we mapped them here. I'll be talking about them in detail. First of all, identifying national demands. It's very crucial to understand what are the national demands for technology and innovation. What are the priorities for our country in terms of technology and in terms of innovation? Second of all, inspiring and educating innovators. Do we have a proper educational system to educate entrepreneurs and build the capacities of innovators in the region or country or not? Third of all, developing local and applicable and appropriate solutions on the ground. If I have an idea or a research product and the outcome of a research product, where should I go to implement this idea and convert it to something on the ground? And the fourth element, which is incubation. We should ask ourselves, with amazing research institutions with tons of outcomes of research, but what about transferring research on the ground and implementing it and converting it to businesses? And then we have the registration and certification, and it's a huge issue in the Arab region. If you have a proper business, if you want to establish or to start a startup or a business in the water or the green sector, this might take from you a lot of time. In some countries, maybe the registration period could take 35 days. And if, for instance, you want to establish a dewatering sludge plant, this might take 1 year at least to get the certificate or the permission to implement this project. And the sixth step, which is business support and networking. It's important to having a startup or having an innovation or a technology to be supported and to be embedded in a network that can scale this business afterward. And then the last but not least, scaling up and internationalization, taking the local technologies and exporting them abroad. At ESCWA Technology Center, we try to work on supporting the entire system, the entire steps. First of all, for identifying national demands, we created a tool in cooperation with Cambridge University called Istimrar, Entrepreneurship, Science, Technology, and Innovation, Multimodality Road Mapping for SDGs in the Arab region. This tool, it has 8 main steps where we can help Arab member states to develop proper STI roadmaps that can serve SDGs. We started also to do some community policy dialogues. It's very important to bring the community and policymakers together to start a dialogue, to identify the demands, and we developed something called challenges and opportunities workshops, where we can discuss together the challenges and put solutions for these challenges. And by using the STI road mapping toolbox, we can turn the challenges into opportunities and provide solutions for these challenges. And then we have the inspiring and educating innovators and entrepreneurs. We developed at ETC what we call compendiums of green technologies. We have a compendium of agricultural technologies, appropriate agricultural technologies that can be implemented in the Arab region, compendium of wash technologies, compendium of renewable energy technologies, and so on and so forth. So we are continuing working on compiling the most appropriate technologies that can be implemented in the Arab region. And all of these tools are available now at depar.esqa.org. So it's a platform called Digital Enabling Platform for the Arab region, where you can find all the tools that I'll be talking about now. You'll find them there. And then we started to facilitate technologies and business models workshops in some Arab countries. And it's very important to mainstream these kind of trainings and tools across the Arab region to overcome the educational gaps in the region. And then the third step, which is developing local solutions. If you have an idea, an amazing technology, and you tested it at the lab or an innovation center or a fabrication facility, then what? Where to go? What to do with it? Who is responsible for supporting you? Or who has a willingness and intention to support you? So where to go? This is a huge question in the region. So we are supporting the region, supporting Arab member states to establish what we call the KICs, Knowledge and Innovation Community Centers. For each sector, you can establish a national KIC, where you can bring together policymakers, you can bring technology transfer offices, entrepreneurial support community, and also the industry. All of these guys, they have representatives at these KICs, so they can sit together. We have plans, we have technologies, we have all the supporting ecosystem attending at this KIC. So if you have an idea or a business model or whatever, you will go to this KIC, they will give you the proper support, you transfer your technology from an idea to a product on the ground. So we are very happy to help all Arab member states to establish these KICs in the water sector. And then the commercialization and incubation, which is a very crucial point. Inventing a new technology, it's not just about manufacturing or having a business model or a startup or a company or an innovation facility, but there are other business models that can be implemented also on the ground. We map these business models and we figure out there are about 8 business models can be transforming technologies into businesses or to impact on the ground, including manufacturing, consulting, maintenance and repair, engineering services, also process and treatment business models, leasing and rental, service providers, and also retail and sales. All of these business models, they can, if you have whatever outcome of research and innovation at your facility, we can help you to investigate the proper business model that can transfer this technology on the ground. And then the registration and certification, we are working with UNCTAD for developing online single windows for business registration. As I mentioned to you, at some countries, it might take 2 months to register a business. With the online single window, you can start a business or you build a startup in the water sector or the green technology sector in a couple of hours. We are implementing that nowadays in Jordan, and we are working also with Sudan on that, and we are happy to provide this service to the other Arab countries. The business support and networking, the step 6, it's very important that we started working on mapping the ecosystem who are working in the field of innovation and entrepreneurship in the 22 Arab countries. We developed 5 maps per country. one for the business ecosystem, another one for the water sector, and for the energy sector, and also agriculture sector. And for supporting women entrepreneurs and innovators, we also built women empowerment ecosystem maps. So for each country, we have 5 maps where we map this ecosystem, and we have this database to disseminate across the region. All of that you will find on the part. And also we have the Arab SME Summit that will take place in Jordan at the Dead Sea on October the 30th, where we will bring innovators, entrepreneurs, and also policymakers to discuss about technologies and to discuss about successful and inspiring business models and how to disseminate that across the region and global. My last slide is about scaling up and internationalization. ESCWA worked on mapping also international opportunities for Arab innovators and entrepreneurs. We started to investigate several European and Asian and also African countries and the opportunities there for Arab innovators and entrepreneurs. We discussed them, we discovered them in different sectors, including WASH. And also we are mapping all the events, international events, where also entrepreneurs can go there, attend these events, and present their products and get international deals. So in brief, these 7 main steps, they are very crucial and important. Every one of us and each country should think about it. Do I support all the 7 steps or not? All of them, I can have them in a checklist. If they are complete, I have a proper innovation system that foster entrepreneurship and technology production. If I have any missing item here, please contact us. We will help you and support you to complete your enabling environment and enhance it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karim. This is an interesting setting for us to start out our discussion. I just want to keep something in mind for everybody here, panelists and audience. Innovation does not have to be strictly technical, and Karim showed it. There are parts that are policy-oriented. That's the major maybe enabler, we'll know later. And there are some that are technical and developmental. And these are things that we really need to keep in mind. It's not only when you innovate, you design something. It's how you make that work and what helps you make it work. And innovation is the الحاجة أم الاختراع, and necessity is the mother of all invention, and we have a water necessity here. So I will ask you questions later, Karim, and we'll move on to our panels. So I'm not going to start in that order. I'm just going to pluck people in and out. But definitely we'll start with Riwa, who is the program coordinator at Waterlution, and she will tell us a little bit more about it and how that links to innovation and what you've been doing recently and in the recent past. Riwa, you have 4 minutes. I will call you. This might buzz before that, so just go ahead, please.
Thank you, Dr. Nadeem. Good morning, esteemed guests, panelists. And thank you, ESCWA, for organizing this event and giving us the space to bring forward the water priorities. Now, as we're talking about innovation, I would like to get your attention, something that I noticed. Did you notice how many times the word or the term innovation came up in yesterday's discussion? Well, I was curious enough to actually count them, and I kept track, and it came up around 30 times and more than 30 times, where innovation was a major need for the water, for the water sector. And as Mr. Karim already mentioned, and Dr. Farajalla, when we talk about innovation, it's not about talking what we need to invent or a new invention. It's more importantly is what we need to be looking and seeking answers. How is the challenge that we're having now? How are we solving it? And by knowing this, we will be answering questions. First of all, why do we have this challenge, or why are we actually having this problem in the water sector now specifically? And the second question would be, how is it also affecting our community from a social perspective? How is this challenge affecting our community? And also the third question would be, what is being done recently? Are we there yet? Did we find solutions there yet? Or which kind of solutions are we adopting? So when we frame these questions and we look at them in a holistic point of view, we would know how to innovate, and thus we would be creating a modern change and a sustainable modern solutions. And allow me here to mention that here comes the role of the youth, as they are the ones that are holding this modern perspective from either technology or from the community and the social perspective. They have their role here in this part. And the water is being a common denominator when we talk about the climate change, when we talk about the environmental sustainability. Water is the common denominator, and this gives us the opportunity to actually work in multidisciplinarity, work in between multi-generational communities, and also work in innovative perspectives. So before we innovate, and this is what you also mentioned, is we need to start to educate. And this is what we're doing at Waterlution and the Water Innovation Labs. We are implementing and delivering an immersive leadership training program for the youth, for them to bring down their potential and showcase how they can be active members in the water sector. We are training them to become future leaders. We are giving them the networking skills, the leadership skills, the global water knowledge, and how to think in a system thinking way for them to actually understand the cause of this problem, the root cause problem, for them to innovate and find solutions that are the pressing local solutions in the sector. And as the program coordinator in Lebanon Water Innovation Lab in Lebanon, I'm very proud to say that we have 200 participants so far that are being trained with us. We actually have 2 of our active participants here with us and the guests, and they all collaborated together to develop innovative solutions, and we have over 30 solutions that were developed as part of the Water Innovation Lab in Lebanon across 4 years. We did it over the 4 consecutive years, being global and Lebanon, whereas it was focused on specific challenges, which were the WEF nexus, the informal settlements, the wash and informal settlements, as well as the climate change and mitigations approaches. So here comes the fact that moving forward, I would believe that I would be keen also to see that innovation is leveraging the water solutions, and it's being a head point where we can see also the youth being the active members and not only as the observers in this sector. And I believe that let's say the truth, but like the youth are the ones that will hold the future sustainability of the solutions that we are addressing today. So to sustain is to innovate and is to work in a holistic perspective. So let's do it early and let's invest in our youth and innovation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Riwa. Good timing. The next speaker I would like to engage with is the lead water resources management specialist at Meena Water region at the World Bank, Ms. Amal Talbi. The reason I jumped sequence is that Karim specified and talked about knowledge as part of what ESCWA is doing. Riwa talked about knowledge as well. And you at the World Bank, known for other things, but are now, and you will tell us more about the Mashriq Waters Knowledge Series, which is important for us to lead into then our coming discussions. Please.
Thank you, Nadim. And yes, a good point. The bank is usually known for investment. However, we do work a lot on knowledge and facilitation. So that's an important discussion. And in the Mashreq Water Series knowledge, what is really interesting, working with the Mashreq countries and how we define the Mashreq, I think is broad, is Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Iran, Turkey. So we really go, I would say, in quite a large number of countries, is how do you create a platform to discuss innovation? So we had events, for example, and this work is jointly with UNESCO, so it's the World Bank with UNESCO, creating a platform for the countries to discuss, to see what are the innovation that are thinking about, what they're interested, but also looking at what other regions and other countries have put as innovation. One thing that you said, and I really think is important, is that innovation is not just technical. And I think this, we need to repeat it. And let me give you an example. We talk a lot about China and the way China was able to cap the evapotranspiration using remote sensing, etc. Great innovation. I would argue that a greater innovation is how China went from a centralized water allocation system to system of trading between provinces. And that is over 20 years, and how they did it in a systematic way, with piloting, with scaling up, because you change regulation and you change institutions. So I would say that we try to discuss about the events where, for example, on digital technology for improved water resources management, for improved groundwater, economic implications. And I will advertise just 1 minute that for our next event, which will be again with UNESCO in the same place, and it will be about discussing the climate financing, really what we can see from other regions and one country. I'll stop here for the sake of the time. So, thank you.
You're way ahead of time. This sets up something of interest. China did that decentralization approach, and keep that question in mind to answer it. How can this experience and benefit our region, and how can we translate that experience? Is it through, I wouldn't say a bottleneck, but is there a broader highway than going through just the World Bank and that kind of experience? Let's come to that, because it is interesting for us also to have within our group the private sector. It's critical. Everybody says private sector is important for us to move forward, involvement of the private sector, but private sector and public sector interaction is what drives and what motivates and what establishes the utilization of innovation, whether in technologies or in how to the management, the governance of things. And we're very fortunate to have Mr. Asad Saadi, who's the regional manager at Nestle Waters. He's a hydrogeologist by training and has evolved upwards in scale. Asad, please tell us how Nestle incorporates innovation in its practices and in its water aspect in specific.
Thank you, Nadeem. Thank you for the invitation. So indeed, I'm representing the private sector. I'm representing Nestle. For those among you who doesn't know Nestle, it's world's largest food and beverage company, established more than 150 years ago, based in Switzerland, and more than 300,000 employees, more than 440 factories around the world, and present in 186 countries. It's really a large, company covering the world, basically. At Nestle, of course, we're committed to the SDGs, and we work to support them. Now, how Nestle can foster the water innovation? Coming back to your question, Nadeem. Indeed, Nestle Waters, that is part of Nestle and that has the expertise in water, because since we are dealing with mineral water, is the lighthouse for Nestle for water. And Nestle Waters is basically working on two axes. First, the first axe is dealing with the water inside the factories where we operate. So inside the factories where we operate, we make sure that every drop of water is used in the most efficient way. So I heard talking a lot about efficiency this morning. So efficiency is really the term inside the factories, water efficiency. And we do here a lot of innovation in terms of tools, methodology, softwares, installation to monitor every drop of water and to make sure it's being used in the most efficient way. We deal also outside the factories. I said two axes, inside the factories and outside the factories. Okay, how we deal with the water outside the factory? Of course, the biggest use of water is in the catchment area. Inside the factories, we use a certain point of the water, but the biggest water use is in the catchment area. So outside the factories, in the catchment, we are committed to water stewardship. What is water stewardship? Water stewardship is about integrated water resource management in the catchment, engaging with the communities, and dealing with the ecosystem. So for this, we are committed to AWS certification, Alliance for Water certification for all the factories. Additionally, in the catchment area, we are also committed to replenish and to regenerate the water cycle in all the factories where Nestle operate. What does it mean? Nestle Waters operate. It means that if we withdraw or if we use 100 million liters, let's say, in a factory, we have to replenish the same amount in the catchment. Okay, we have some examples. We already started. We put a deadline for us in 2025. We have examples like flood management in certain countries, improvement of water quality in rivers and canals, so the population can benefit from the water. But in our country, in the Meena region, Middle East and North Africa, regenerating or replenishing the water cycle is very challenging. It's particularly challenging because we are living in a water scarcity area, so we need to replenish the water that is already not easily available. And here we need a lot of innovation indeed, and we need your help. We need to collaborate all together. We cannot do it alone. We can be part of the solution, but we cannot do it alone. So I think this is an interesting platform to exchange information, to collaborate together in order to find the solution for us to meet the target of replenishing all the water cycle that and in all the catchment to benefit the catchment, the community, and also, you know, others.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Thank you. This leads to you raised the point about catchment and working, regenerating or replenishing withdrawals within the catchment, not necessarily from where you've taken it, but where it can feed into it later. And then this raises an important point and an important issue. Computational improvements over the years and technology and whatnot have led to a rise in remote sensing and the use of remote sensing worldwide. And for this, I would like to ask Ms. Wafa Abul Hassan, who's the Chief Economic Statistics, Information Society and Technology Cluster at ESCWA. How do you rate the use of remote sensing in terms of tracking natural resources and their management, and tracking waters and anticipating flooding? Because then I will go back to Mr. Sarmi about flooding and the use of technologies there. But in terms of management of the resources, especially water, how would you compare public use, public sector use of that versus the private sector? What are the obstacles? Where can we innovate in that use? The innovation technically is there, but how can we innovate in that use? Thank you.
Thank you, Nadim. If you allow me, I will speak in Arabic. And yes, I prepared just a short presentation. I'll try to be as brief as I can. وبالإضافة كمان أنا بحب أشكر زملائي بمجموعة التغيير المناخي أيضاً لوضع الإحصاء والبيانات ضمن المواضيع اللي بنناقشها بكل ما يتعلق بوضع السياسات. فبالنسبة للابتكار والتقنيات الحديثة وما علاقتها بالإحصاء، هلا الإحصاءات الرسمية هي فاونديشن، يعني ما فيني أنا أقول في ابتكارات جديدة let's forget about إنه الفاونديشن اللي موجودة. فهو المهم إنه كيف نبني على ما هو موجود وقائم ويعطينا معلومات دقيقة، بس كيف يمكن أن نستفيد من التقنيات الحديثة والابتكارات. هلا تحدثت أمل عن الريموت سنسينج بتشاينا. فبهمنا كثير بالمنطقة أنه نستفيد من البيانات اللي بتوفرها الاستشعار عن بعد، البيانات اللي بتصدر عن مراقبة الأرض. فعم نجرب بكل ما يمكن أنه نشجع الدول. نحن علاقتنا مع الحكومات، مع مكاتب الإحصاء الوطنية والإدارات والوزارات يعني المعنية، وهذا يعني يتطلب جهد كبير، لأنه ليس من السهل إقناع القطاع العام بهذا يعني بهذا الشأن، لأنه في إجراءات، في يعني أمور ما عم تتقدم مثل ما لازم إنه أمور التقدم تمشي معنا. ف يعني نحن كوضع سياسات مثل ما نقول طبعا مهم كثير أعمال مكاتب الإحصاء الوطنية، المسوح، التعدادات، خاصة لما عم تقوم على نظم جغرافية. يعني نحن عندنا بمعظم الدول العربية أقاموا تعدادات عن عدد السكان بأي أمكنة موجودين، الخصائص الديموغرافية والخصائص الاقتصادية. فهناك كميات هائلة ومهمة جدا من البيانات الموجودة. أهمية أنه إدماج البيانات الضخمة الآتية من الاستشعار عن بعد والتي هي متوفرة بدون free access free of cost، وهو يعني خسارة أنه لا يتم استخدامه. هلا بالأسكوا جربنا بما أنه نحن مجموعة الإحصاء والتكنولوجيا أنه نقوم بمشاريع صغيرة للاستفادة من الريموت سنسينج وكيفية تطبيقها لبعض الدول. ففي مشروع مثلا عملنا مع جوجل ايرث انجن، وهو مع جمهورية مصر العربية، مكتب الإحصاء بجمهورية مصر العربية، إنه كيفية استخدام نازا، كوبرنيكوس، من يوروستات. نحن كإحصائيين لوحدنا لم يكن بإمكاننا يعني جمع البيانات والتحليل، فهناك أخصائيين بالداتا ساينس وداتا أناليتكس، هناك أخصائيين بالجي آي اس، وهو مطلوب بدك كل هذه الخبرات حتى تعرف تستخدم هذه البيانات المتوفرة. استفدنا من تدريب أعطانا يا جوجل ايرث انجن مع جمهورية مصر العربية، الفريق اللي كان مشارك معنا في المشروع. فقبل ما أتحدث إنه نحن ركزنا على إدارة الكوارث لأنه مهم جدا نشترك فيها، بما إنه موضوع المؤتمر اليوم هو عن المياه، فمثلا المؤشر 661 على نطاق كيفية تغير نطاق الووتر ايكو سيستم لا يمكن أن تحصل بيانات عليه إذا ما استخدمت الاستشعار عن بعد. بدك تشوف عبر الوقت كيف تم تغيير هذا يعني النظام الإيكولوجي مع الوقت، وما هي نوعية المياه. فيعني هناك مجلات علمية متخصصة عم يعني تناقش الموضوع. ريموت سنسينج في يعني عدد بس متخصص SDGs وكيفية استخدام الريموت سنسينج، ممكن الاطلاع عليه. أنا حطيت اللينكس بالبرزنتيشن. هناك أيضا بالمشروع اللي استخدمناه ممكن تستخدم الاستشعار عن بعد مع مواقع التواصل الاجتماعي. صار في عندك تدهور أو فيضان بمكان معين، ممكن تشوف بالسوشيال ميديا، تويتر، فيسبوك، بيعطوا صور مثلا وين ممكن أنت تحط هيدا الفيضان مع أي بيانات اللي صدرت. فالانتجريشن كثير مهم بهذا المجال. بالنسبة يعني كمان طرأ حديث عن هناك نظام إحصائي يسمى الايكو سيستم اكاونتنج. يعني الايكو سيستم اكاونتنج بيسمح لي انه اعطي قيم ماديه وماليه للايكو سيستمز. فبما انه متوفر البيانات عن استشعار عن بعد، هناك مشروع كبير مع اليو ان اسمه Artificial Intelligence for Ecosystem Services أو for Environment and Sustainability. فهناك البيانات اللي global data اللي موجودة عن كل الايكو سيستمز، منها الووتر ريليتد ايكو سيستمز، موجودة كل بلد في نقي أي catchment، أي administrative locality بده يشتغل عنها. فأنا جربت بلبنان وبالعراق، يعني ممكن إنه واحد يحصل على الايكو سيستم اللي بده يشتغل عليه، وكيف تغير عبر الوقت. فيعني مهم يعني بحضوركم انه مهم كثير انه التشجيع على استخدام هذه البيانات متوفره. ولما انه في مجلات حتى مثلا اجانس فرانس بريس بتشوفها على تويتر بتحط خرائط لدولنا، نحن دولنا ما عم تستعملها، فمن المهم جدا انه نقدر نستخدم هذه البيانات. والصوره اللي حطتها للعراق على بحيره كيف تغيرت انه بسنوات قليله، يعني للاسف انه لحتى يتم انه ترجع تعمل لها ريهابيليتيشن ممكن الاستفاده من البيانات الموجوده، طبعا بالتشارك مع البرايفت سيكتور والعاملين في القطاعات المختلفه.
شكرا وفاء. Thank you. Last but not least أكيد Mr. سعيد الصارمي as a meteorological expert with the Department of Meteorology at the Civil Aviation Ministry of Transport and Communication in Oman. I think your area of as a meteorologist becomes a focal point for all the confluence of innovation, whether technical or non-technical, management-wise. Can you let us know, talk to us a little bit about how you experience and use innovation in your area of work, and how is it translating up and down the scale of management? Thank you.
دكتور نديم، أتحدث بالعربية إن شاء الله. في سلطنة عمان لنا تجربة لله الحمد ناجحة في أننا أنشأنا المركز الوطني للإنذار من المخاطر المتعددة، كان في عام 2015. طبعا تحدث الكثير من المشاركين عن أن تأثيرات التغيرات المناخية باتت واقعة على جميع دول العالم، مثل ما أشار إليه التقرير السادس العلمي في أغسطس الماضي. طبعا مثل ما أشارت إليه دائما كارول في محاضراتها. ففي السلطنة من بعد 1998 باتت درجات الحرارة مرتفعة عن المعدل وما انخفضت ولا في أي سنة من 1998. وانخفضت أيضا معدلات هطول الأمطار بشكل كبير، ثم صار تغير واضح في نمط هطول الأمطار، أصبح أكثر إلى الحالات المتطرفة. فال20 سنة الماضية ارتفعت فيها شدة وعدد الأعاصير المدارية التي تتكون في بحر العرب وتؤثر مباشرة على سلطنة عمان. لله الحمد مع إنشاء المركز الإنذار المبكر كان تأثير الوفيات، عدد الوفيات في مثلا في الإعصار 2007 كان 59 وفاة، وعدد الخسائر قدرت ب2 مليار ريال عماني. في 2010 كانت نقصت عدد الوفيات إلى 29 والمخاسر الاقتصادية إلى 330 مليون. بعد إنشاء المركز الوطني للإنذار المبكر في 2015 في 2018 كان عدد الوفيات وصل إلى 6 فقط من 59، وانخفض الخسائر الاقتصادية إلى 200 مليون. السنة الماضية كان في دخول لإعصار ما جاء لسلطنة عمان هذا المسار من 100 سنة. فلله الحمد يعني بالتقنيات الموجودة في المركز الإنذار المبكر الوفيات ما تعدت 6، والخسائر أيضا ثبتت إلى في حدود 200 مليون. فالمركز الإنذار المبكر استخدم فيه التقنيات الحديثة هذه، سواء التقنيات الموجودة على اليابسة من وجود المستشعرات، المحطات الأرصاد الجوية والرادارات الطقس، أو على البحر عندنا أيضا في محطات اللي تتعلق بالويف رادارز تقيس الأمواج البحر واتجاه الأمواج والتيارات المائية. او على من الجو، اللي هي عن طريق صور الاقمار الصناعيه الساتلايت اللي نستقبلها من الاقمار الصناعيه الاوروبيه كل تقريبا 5 إلى 10 دقائق، او من الاقمار الامريكيه. هذا وجدت من خلال هذه المشاركه اني انقل هذه التجربه، ان من خلال استخدام التقنيات الحديثه ومنهجيه الانذار المبكر من المخاطر المتعدده ممكن ان يعني ننجح في مساله خفض تاثيرات الاعاصير المداريه والحالات المتطرفه، سواء المخاسير الاقتصاديه او المخاسير البشريه. وشكرا
لك.
بارك الله.
فعلا عمان من البلدان اللي كثير تضررت من الاعاصير، يعني اخر واحد، مش اخر واحد بس، جونو سبب يعني حالات موت وضحايا، خلف ضحايا كثار. بقى الانذار المبكر اذا من نحطه مع استعمال ريموت سنسنج لا له فوائد جمة، يا ريت يكون ضمن سياق العمل الحكومي الدائم، ما ضروري يكون بس اكاديمي بحت او قطاع الخاص. هلا في تدرج عم بيصير بالدول العربيه، تحسن فيها، ان شاء الله يضلوا تصير تسرع الوتيره اكثر. كريم، قبل before I turn over the questions to the audience، بدي اسال كريم سؤال. التكنولوجي innovation process اللي مشيت فيها هي مخصص، is it sector specific ولا it is a cross sector, cross sectoral؟ يعني you talked about energy, a lot of innovation in the energy, and there is a lot of work done there. But if you ask Ruwa, there are plenty of innovations in the water sector on a smaller scale as well. Does that translate? Does the process still apply to the water sector?
Yeah, it's multi-sectoral or cross-sectoral, or as you wish to call it. So it's the process itself. You can implement it on whatever type of technology.
Okay, so it's not any sector specific. Excellent, thank you. I would like to take the opportunity now so that we move on to questions from the audience. If there are any pressing questions, we'll start with Meena and then move over to Igor and then gentle out there. Meena.
Thank you, Professor Nadeem, for giving me the floor to ask a question. Thanks for ESQA for this very important meeting and exchange of experiences. Actually, there is something that I want to ask regarding the remote sensing data. In Lebanon, we need it a lot because we don't have a series of data, and even it becoming with time more frustrating because of managing and monitoring the water resources cost a lot, and there is no staff for this issue. But the problem that while we are using the remote sensing data, we need the validation. So you go again to our weak point in Lebanon, which is the water information system, which doesn't exist in Lebanon. I was searching if the science and the research could find a compromising solution for such issues. As you know now, the water, the data knowledge and the machine learning and all this stuff, if we can, for example, the academic or the researchers would help, it is good issue that you lower the cost, because you know the monitoring system on the ground costs a lot, and no funding agencies encouraged to finance. Whatever you ask them, please help us in supporting our monitoring system. They get away, even that all our studies and all the projects that are financed, they keep make the same recommendation because there is a gap in data, there is no sufficient data, we didn't arrive to a very consolidated solution. Thank you.
Excellent point you've raised, Meena. I think I will collect 3 questions and ask the panel to respond, if I may, and then we'll move on. There's Igor first, the gentleman over there, the lady from Egypt, and Hamad. Please, Igor.
Thanks a lot, and I start with 2 specific thanks. The first one is because you actually focus more, I mean, you divert a bit the attention from the classical technological approach to innovation. Innovation is processes, is reusing same ideas, but in a different angle. So that's a thank. And the second thank is to Ms. Wafa to put some light on the Sawa Lake in Iraq and how conflict has an important environmental impact. That's starting with that. I have a question which is more related to the main brick to innovation. So in the water sector, I think there are many engineers and also somebody from the scientific world. And for some reason, historically, it's considered a field that doesn't have creativity, no? So and it's totally wrong, because I mean the most creative mind should be the engineers, not the artists, right? Yeah. And my question is, do you have, apart from the enabling environment that you explained, do you have also some specific tips to foster creativity? Thanks.
Yes, please. Yes. Please introduce yourself. I'm sorry, I should ask people to introduce themselves.
شكرا جزيلا. أنا محمد وهبة من الICID. احنا في ظل الجلسات اللي تمت امبارح، اهم التحديات اللي احنا بنواجهها في المنطقه العربيه نقص المياه. وبصراحه انا يعني المني كثيرا لما سمعت من الاخ عادل ياسين امبارح تكلم على الوضع المائي في فلسطين، وازاي ان المياه بتجيلهم كل 3 شهور مع الاحتلال الميه 400 لتر في اليوم للفرد. في نفس الوقت الدكتور وليد امبارح لما اتكلم على التكنولوجيا وخاصه في موضوع التحليه ان احنا ما زلنا مستهلكين. فبالتالي احنا مطلوب من الابتكارات دي ان احنا لابد ان احنا نعطي الحلول لمواجهه المشاكل دي. وانا كان في نقطه مهمه جدا وكنت احب اسمعها عن البدائل للموارد الغير تقليديه، ويمكن هي متداوله في الفترات الاخيره، مصادر للمياه باستغلال كل الامكانيات المتاحه وخاصه توليد المياه من الهواء في ظل ظروف مناخيه معينه، في ظل رطوبه بدرجات معينه. واعتقد ان دي مهما كانت التكلفه محتاجه ان احنا نركز عليها، لانها ممكن تحل كثير من المشاكل في المناطق العربيه وخاصه في المناطق اللي مش ممكن يبقى فيها مياه بحر عشان نعمل تحليه او مصادر مياه جوفيه وخلافه. وانا شايف ان دي يعني مبشره وتدينا امل ان شاء الله ان احنا نواجه بيها موضوع نقص المياه. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا. خلينا نطلع لنا اجوبه. Ms. Meena Al-Faqih came up with a question, money, it costs a lot of money to monitor flows, to assess, and actual physical monitoring is required to validate remotely sensed data. Flow data through remote sensing is still on the difficult side. But also there is the issue of the cost involved in groundwater monitoring. So Meena said that there has to be some innovation in reducing costs. Anybody would like, Wafa, would you like to address this? And maybe Asad has some experience in these, maybe.
And quickly, if you allow me, for Meena, yes, there are free, like we said, a lot of free data available. And ground truthing, there's methods for ground truthing. So ما في مشكلة إنه استخدام البيانات على الاستشعار عن بعد مع ground truthing methods. هلا بالنسبة للبنان because I know المركز الوطني للبحوث مشتريين هن خرائط high resolution and they pay a lot of money to get those satellite imagery. فانه لازم يصير في تنسيق بين الادارات الحكوميه انه لاستخدام مين عنده متوفر وهل يمكن انه يستخدموها بالادارات الثانيه. The other thing and quickly عم نجرب بالاسكوا من خلال اليو ان كونتري تيم مثلا بلبنان انه اللي عم يشتغل على الجي اي اس من منظمات اليو ان يساهموا بوضع هالخرائط الموجوده in one place. مثلا اقترحنا انه اداره الكوارث بمجلس الوزراء لانه في كثير ريسورسز مشتته ممكن انه توحيدها استخدامها لحتى انتم كوزاره مياه تقدروا تعرفوا شو في بيانات موجوده لتكميل البيانات اللي ما عندكم اياها يعني كوزاره. واللي قالوا الاستاذ خلدون الصبح انه الووتر يوتيليتيز والادمنستراتيف داتا اللي عم تجي من عندكم كمان كثير مهم انتم كوزاره طاقه ومياه يكون عندكم بيانات وسجلات اداريه مفصله محطوطه على جي اي اس لحتى تقدر تكمل البيانات اللي مكاتب الاحصاء اللي عم. فهي منا انه one source. You have to integrate the data coming from all sources لحتى تخفف العبء عن الجهات المختلفه.
I think you touched a very important topic, Mona, the data. As a private sector, we have an important system of monitoring for the water resources, as I mentioned, inside the factory and outside the factory in the catchment. So we cover a certain geographical area, but I'm sure other organization or private sector, they also cover different geographical area. So what I think can be useful for you is to create a platform where we can share all the data and it can be public so people can benefit from this data. And at the end of the day, you cannot manage what you cannot monitor. So it's very important to have access to the monitoring and data so you can be able to manage the data. And this is one of the recommendations I gave to the COP27 last week in Cairo for the consultation, is to create a platform where people can put data and share data.
Thank you, Asad. This talks to the point that Meena brought up, the water information management system that the ministry has been trying to create for a long time, and things keep happening beyond the control of the ministry for that. If I may disagree with you a little bit, the data that is collected on water resources, etc., does not have to go to the disaster management unit, because we're not talking about disasters yet. What we're talking about is day-to-day management of a resource. And if that water management information system exists, that's a good place. The CNRS is another place to go to so that it becomes part of our life. In continuing to this, in my disagreeing mode, Igor, I would like to tell you, the best engineers are the creative ones. So engineers do not lack creativity. So this is a label that is unfairly stuck on them. Not that I'm not an engineer, I am, but also. The issue is, how do we move with creativity? How can we encourage creativity in thinking and something to move forward? I think Waterlution is the first to answer that. Riwa, can you please?
Yes, thank you for your question and for highlighting about that. Water, finding solutions for water equals engineers. Engineers are the ones that will find those solutions. In fact, when we think about sustainability and the pillars of sustainability, they are environmental, social, and also economical. So when we think about these three pillars, we are not talking about just one discipline. We're talking about the community. We're talking about the social intervention. We're talking about the policies. So when we want to solve water solutions, it is very important to actually have an integrated way of solving them and not solving them from a perspective of just engineers. Although they have might have the technical position of working for those solutions, but we need to think more of it in a systems thinking way and holistic perspective. This is where we can be finding solutions that are sustainable. So, and this is what we do always at Waterlution, is that we always foster and we always support having this intergenerational and also multidisciplinary positions. So thank you for highlighting this.
Thank you, Ruwan. Karim, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to comment also on that. Like, we have a misconception about creativity that it's a haphazard or a random thinking, and then voila, you have an idea and you want to implement it on the ground. But nowadays, creativity and innovation, it's not leaning on random ideas. It's a creation process. You imagine you bring not only engineers in a room, bring all of your bright minds, the engineering, the business, and whatever people are, or even the HR team, bring all of them in one room. Okay, guys, we have this challenge, and then we are going through a process, and there are lots of models, creative processes. Like there is a model called the Scamper. You can substitute, it's an abbreviation of substitution, or combining something together, or adapting a specific technology into your community, or modifying or magnifying a local solution or a small solution to be a scalable solution, or eliminating something in an existing solution, and then or reversing the technology and utilizing it in another way. So there are lots of procedures. You can bring the people in the room and then go through this procedure, and then afterward you will come up with a set of solutions. You can screen them and to pick the most proper one. And there are also lots of ways to, because nowadays technology is going into an extreme direction. People are talking about, there are lots of international trends nowadays, like extended reality, the metaverse, Internet of Things, robotics, big data. How to bring all of these new advanced technologies into the water sector. This will reduce, and I remember from Khaldun's intervention this morning, we need to reduce costs. There are tons of smart and easy and cheap technologies that can reduce your implementation and your solutions up to 90%. So it's not only the position or the job of engineers. It's the job of all the people who are involved in this sector. Bring them into one room and figure out a proper solution that can be implemented on the ground in your community.
Karim, just a second. You said, I just want to help you address the point raised by ICRD, is that there are unconventional sources of water that can be used, and we need to be generating solutions rather than taking in other solutions. And some of this is harvesting of water through dew harvesting, etc. The problem with these issues is, as you mentioned in your presentation, the certification and registration, and then the scaling up. In your experience, is this something that's happening in the Arab world at a level that is in the ESCWA region? Let's be more broad. That is acceptable, or are we still lagging in this process? And anybody here on the panel, please, if you have want to add to this question.
Actually, it's a huge gap in the region in terms of regulations and laws for fostering this kind of innovative solutions.
Okay.
Like in some Arab countries, until now, they prohibit safe disposal of treated water into into canals or irrigation canals. So it's a whole system. If you miss any part of it, you will mess up with the entire innovation procedure. So we have to have a look at the rules, regulations, enabling policies, review all of them and simplify them. Like for instance, in our e-registration work that we are working, we went to some countries, we figured out like you have 20 procedures to register a specific facility, for instance. But if you have, and these steps are at different places. So imagine if you have all of your documents and running around the place, and if you are coming from a rural area outside the main city, you will mess up. And then you will reach a situation that, okay, I fed up, I'll not register my business, I'll not establish this facility, and I'll go away. So it's very important to have a look on the procedures, simplify them, eliminate the unnecessary procedures, and then making them very clear to the people, to set the boundaries for the community. Because you will end up having lots of amazing and creative ideas, but you just throw them in the garbage bin, because there is nothing to do with these technologies, and they will not have the possibility to move on.
Thank you. Amal. And then we'll need to move back to the list. Yeah, we have 5 questions, and then we'll stop. Please.
Let me defend the engineers. I have to.
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
No, I think the water sector has attention, and I like the point of Wafa. We have to make the argument first on the data. And Mr. Sarimi gave this example, how much benefit you got because you used adequately the data. So that gets you, the Minister of Finance, to start thinking differently on the data. I agree with you that it's to the disaster. Nevertheless, get the data as you, whoever pays. Exactly, and put it out, put it out, put it out. I cannot tell you how many countries have just been asking, please give me the rainfall. Please give me the level of the dams. Impossible to get, impossible. So I won't name countries, but the point is, the second point on that engineering innovation, I think in the water sector, we have that tension between, there was an article, a very interesting article a few years ago saying, if somebody came from 200 years ago, they wouldn't recognize telecom. We have this cell phone, etc. They wouldn't recognize many sectors, but they would be great in water. You still have the pipes, you still have the networks, you still have the dams, you still have, so there is this infrastructure that exists, and in a way is a legacy. It's not bad, but it's a legacy, and you have to recover the cost. So that's a tension with innovation. If you do a transfer between 2 basins, that costs billions of dollars. You are not overnight saying, you know what, let's forget about this transfer and do innovation. Obviously, there is this tension. So I think it's how we work with these new solutions that adapt and complement this. And this innovation, I agree, it's not just engineer, it's society, it's ecosystem, exactly, it's society choices. And if we understand that, then we can create the policies, etc.
Okay. We have the lady from Egypt first, the gentleman from Mauritania, the gentleman back there, I cannot see where from, and then the front row, gentleman from Syria and Palestine. And then we'll have to wrap it up. Ahmed, sorry. Ahl al-Bayt, sorry. Okay, we've got, Ziad, do we have time for all the questions from the floor? Quickly, yes, please, go ahead. Please.
Iman Said from Egypt. Actually, my comments for Amal Turba. Thank you for your very excellent example for the Chinese system for ET. But I'd like to just feedback as the Chinese system is dependent on their satellite. So it's a Chinese satellite, and even the model for extracting the information is a Chinese one. We miss this kind of maybe availability of data in the Arab region. We tried a lot with our colleague from different agencies to depend on another satellite images, but it's far away from the Chinese. They have different resolution, different scale, and they are able to sell the product to farmers. We miss this in Arab region. Maybe we can think how we can find a similar product to be used in our countries, and even to add more information to farmers and see how we can produce simple and good product to farmers to use this product, and even to get confidence about changing from products use high consumption of water to another one. So maybe this note could be solved in future with the help of different development partner, how we can find a similar one in the Arab region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This talks to what Wafa. Quickly, please, yes.
Just to note, there's a lot of collaboration now on Earth observation. There's Digital Earth Africa that provides satellite imagery for African countries, and we are collaborating with them. It can be used. Not every country needs to have its satellites, but collaborative work can bring information for everyone.
Thank you. Yes, تفضل.
satellite data من China في satellite meteorological station على خط طول 70. فبالنسبة للسلطنة سلطنة عمان ودولة الإمارات تستقبل بيانات الساتلايت من القمر الصناعي الصيني، ولكن طبعا الريزوليوشن أقل طبعا من الأوروبي، ولكن يعطي بيانات للسحب وتحركها. فممكن مشروع ساتلايت عربي مستقبلي يعني يلبي بالغرض يعني. شكرا.
Gentleman from Mauritania, please.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله من جديد. أنا من موريتانيا المهابة والبلال، وباختصار شديد شكرا لكم جميعا على هذه حقيقة المداخلات القيمة. الأستاذ سعيد من سلطنة عمان شاركنا بتجربة مركز الإنذار المبكر وما حققه من نتائج مهمة، والأستاذ كريم أيضا أشار الكثير من النقاط ونقطة التعقيدات البيروقراطية هذه فعلا مشكلة كبيرة في جميع البلدان. الست أمل أعطتنا تجارب حول الاستشعار عن بعد مجال الصين. أما الأخت روى فكانت فعلا أعجبتني كثيرا مداخلتها في إطار تحضير الشباب والقيادة، وذكرت السيدة روى أنكم توصلتم إلى 30 حلا خلال ال4 سنوات الماضية. هل هذه الحلول 20 متاحة للجميع ممكن مشاركتها؟ هل أخذت شكلها النهائي؟ يعني هل منشورة بالإنترنت؟ أنا فقط أود أن أطلع عليها إذا كانت متاحة، وشكرا لكم.
Amal, you can talk to that outside. It's a one-on-one. Let me do this. FAO had asked earlier, and then I will jump to Syria and to the League of Arab States and to Aksar, and then move back that way and finish. Okay, I'm sorry. I tried to do that.
شكرا نديم. I'll be very brief.
Somebody's mic is open. Mic.
Yes, thank you. I'll be very brief. Just 2 small points. There is no doubt that technology and innovation is an accelerator. No doubt that technology, innovation, accelerator, enabler, and means of implementation for the SDGs, for the Sustainable Development Agenda, etc. So I'm not really doubting this, but I haven't heard about utilizing indigenous knowledge. Sometimes innovation, technology has done some harm besides doing a lot of good. The invention of the pump is a milestone in technology, but yet in some areas has really depleted a lot of groundwater in an unsustainable manner. So just wanted to highlight the issue of indigenous knowledge. We have our colleague, friend from Oman with the AFLAJ system. So there is a lot of knowledge that can be utilized, which would be the seeds for innovation. So local problems need local solutions and local innovators. On the same regards, there has been a lot of discussions on remote sensing, etc. There are a lot of uncertainties. We have been doing at FAO a webinar series on the ET determination using remote sensing, and we have found through our scoping exercise that there is a lot of uncertainty, a lot of differences between. So we really need to rely also on the back-truthing, on the validation process, on the ground measurements. And it's not, some people try to sell remote sensing as the magic bullet solution. It is an advancement in technology, but yet we need to be very careful when talking about it. Solar pumping. Everybody now is talking about solar pumping, and sometimes solar pumping is not connected with adequate water management strategies. It really leads to a lot of risks to groundwater use, etc. So I'm just highlighting some of the uncertainties and risks because a lot of the discussion was really on the positive side. I wanted to be the devil's advocate here. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady behind you, and then I'm coming forward. The lady behind you. Ladies first.
أنا I'll be very brief. السؤال جاي الأستاذ أسعد.
صوتك واطي لو تحكي أعلى.
كده كويس؟ كده كويس؟ أسأل على نسل. قلت لحضرتك إن في 440 مصنع على مستوى العالم. لو تدينا فكرة عن يعني الكوربريت ريسبونسبيلتي، ولو في أي حاجة بتتعمل للسيركيولار ايكونومي، الاقتصاد الدائري، في استخدام مثلا المياه العادمة كإنرجي في المصانع بتاعتكم، أو استخدامات ليها كقطاع خاص، يعني مشاركة القطاع الخاص فيها. السؤال تاني للدكتور السارمي. احنا عندنا داتا كتير، بس المشكلة مش في الداتا، المشكلة في ان الداتا زي ما FAO حتى قال دلوقتي في uncertainty كتير قوي، وفي كتير مودلز بتتعمل وبيطلع نتائج. احنا عندنا مثلا في سينا بيحصل فيضانات كتير وسيول، وبتبقى يعني معروف ان هي هتيجي، وبتعمل early warning systems، وبرضه بتيجي وناس بتموت، والبيوت بيحصل السيول وكل حاجه. ويعني ما اعرفش لو في حاجه دلوقتي جديده حصلت، لان في بيبرز منشوره كتير على المودلز ان الورنينج سيستمز يعني، وبس بتحصل برضو الكوارث، بتحصل ما بتمنعش الكارثه، او ما يعني ممكن تقلل من اضرارها الى حد ما. حاجه تانية عايزه اقولها عن موضوع الانوفيشن.
لا سؤال. صاروا ثلاثه بليز.
لا ده ثالث واحد.
صاروا ثلاثه.
صغير، واحد صغير لكريم. بس انا المشكله عندنا مش في الابتكارات. يعني احنا عندنا في الوطن العربي ما شاء الله في ابتكارات يعني كتير جدا. يعني في مصر عندنا مركز بتاع براءة الاختراعات، تقريبا يعني كل يوم مليون واحد بيخترع حاجه. بس هي المشكله في ان الابلكيشن بتاعت الانوفيشن ديت، وان هو يبقى ابليكابل، وفاندنج ان حد يتبنى هذا الحاجه الانوفيشن، وان تكون يعني مفيده انها تتعمل. بس شكرا.
الأسئلة للcorporate social responsibility very quickly. كريم تحدث عن الابليكيشن و certification registration. Your third question has been answered. Please
very quickly. Corporate social responsibility عندنا program أكيد global program لكل الفاكتوريز. لكل فاكتوري في عندنا corporate social responsibility program. أكيد ما راح أدخل فيها لأنه التوبيك عن الووتر بس موجود البروجرام اللي حكيت عنه. سنو عندنا zero net emission policy by 2050. It is a commitment. حضرتك تكلمت عن انرجي، سو عندنا كوميتمنت zero net emission by 2050 for all Nestle factories.
Thank you. تحب تتكلم عن اللي تفضلت فيه؟
نعم كريم. بالنسبه لنجاح الورنينج سيستم، لابد هنا من زياده. الكثير تكلم عن موضوع الفاليديشن، فلا بد من محاوله زياده عدد المحطات الارضيه للرصد الجوي، على اساس نعم جراوند تروث، وتعطي يعني امكانيه لمقارنتها مع الريموت سنسنج او مع النماذج العدديه اللي ذكرتيها. النماذج العدديه يحتاج ايضا يكون الريزوليوشن مالها اعلى، ثم عمل دراسات لتطوير الموديل نفسه من خلال تغيير الكودز في الموديل نفسه. طبعا هذا يحتاج مهاره في النمذجه العدديه. الامر الاخر لابد تكون علاقه الارصاد الجويه قويه مع السيفل ديفنس كوميتي، مع بقيه اللجان المختصه في منظومه الانذار المبكر اللي هي على الارض، وكذلك مساله الاعلام والكوميونيكيشن المبكر للمواطنين قبل وصول الحالات الجويه المتطرفه. شكرا.
League of Arab States أكساد Syrian Republic أو Syrian Republic League of Arab States أكساد. تفضل. حرام صار له زمان رافع ايده.
لا اسعد الله مساكم. شكرا كثير لكم. مهندس جهاد كنعان من وزاره الموارد السوريه. هلا معضله مشاركه القطاع الخاص، سؤالي لك استاذ اسعد. معضله مشاركه القطاع الخاص بقطاع غير ربحي، يعني هي بدي انا افهم منك تجربتك، لانه القطاع الخاص دائما بيسعى للربح ولمراكمة الأرباح مو بس للربح. فأنتم عم تشتغلوا على هاي القضية على المياه ضمن المعمل. فيني أفهم أنكم أنتم ترفعوا كفاءة استخدامها، هذا في يوفر ربحي لكم كمدخل إنتاج الماء. لكن خارج المعمل شو هو الدافع لكم للعمل؟ لا تقول لي انه انسانيه، بدي اعرف انت شلون عم تغطي ارباحك هي. يعني انا بدي افهم، لانه عم نحاول نفهم آلية دخول القطاع الخاص للعمل، وانت كمثال حي قدامي هلا اعطيني كيف.
بشكرك على السؤال.
Let's collect the 3 questions and then you answer.
شكرا. فقط حبيت اتكلم عن تقنيه الاقمار الصناعيه كتبتها الاخت والتجربه الصينيه في المراقبه من خلال الاقمار الصناعيه. بالنسبه للعالم العربي والاخ من سلطنه عمان، للاسف الشديد 2005 كان اقتراح المرحوم الرئيس بوتفليقه انشاء قمر صناعي عربي لمراقبه كوكب الارض. انطلاقا من القناعه ان الجزائر اطلقت وقتها اول قمر صناعي انسات 1 مع التنسيق مع بريطانيا وقتها، ومصر اطلقت كذلك قمر صناعي، وكانت المملكه العربيه السعوديه على وشك الاطلاق قمر صناعي بالتنسيق مع جنوب افريقيا وبعدها الامارات. فكانت الفكره اننا عدينا الدراسه كامله موجوده اليوم في ارشيف الجامعه، للاسف الشديد اقولها بكل مراره، وانجزتها الوكاله الفضائيه الجزائريه، وتم عرضها على الدوله العربيه وناقشوها، واجتمع وزراء البيئه ووزراء الاتصالات، ولكن في دول افشلت الموضوع للاسف الشديد، وجاء غلق الموضوع، على الرغم ان العمليه كانت يعني من الناحيه التقنيه نوصلوا ريزولوشن قوي جدا يعني، وتكون محطه معالجه في الجزائر، المغرب العربي محطه معالجه في القاهره، محطه معالجه في دمشق، ومحطه معالجه دول الخليج في الرياض. وقتها انا تكلمت في مجلس الوزراء في الخمسينات، كان تطور كبير في الفضاء في مصر، نفس التطور تاع الهند اطلقت الاقمار الصناعيه، والغرب انا حسيت يعطل فينا في هذا المجال، فيه حتى المجال العلمي يحاولوا ما يخلوناش نندمجوا بشكل اكبر، وشكرا جزيلا. والمشروع ما زال ويا ريت يحيوه اذا فيه نوايا صادقه. انا عارف في جهات عطلت المشروع. شكرا جزيلا.
دكتور جناد.
شكرا.
If I may ask the questions to be or comments to be quick so that we can move to that side and then finish up.
استاذ سعيد سلطنة، استاذ سعيد السؤال لك. طيب بشكرك على العرض تجربه الانذار المبكر، وانا بالفعل كنت في احد المرات في السلطنه وشفنا بالضبط كيف بيتم. سؤالي طبعا تعرف انه نحن ضمن ريكار اكساد الاسكوا عملنا دراسه على وادي ضيقه تكرار موجات الفيضان، وايضا نتائج ريكار كان كلها الشيء لزياده تكرار الفيضان وزياده الذروه، يعني البيك فلو. سؤال، هل عملتوا احصائيات خلال المراقبات اللي عم تسوى؟ هل عملتوا احصائيات على شدات الفيضان وتكراريتها؟ بس نحن مشان نعمل مقارنه مع الشيء كان متوقع من دراسات اللي عملناها سابقا ضمن ريكار، هل تشير فعلا الى الزياده بالتكرار والشده كما هو نتج من نماذج رياضيه طبقت في مشروع ريكار؟
Sorry, we have to wrap up. Moderators today are not doing a good job. We're running over time. So quick wrap up, less than a minute. Just final thoughts from every person. Whoever is ready, jump in first. Amar, yalla.
I would just leave thinking that innovation is within the context of a choice of a country. So China is not about remote sensing, it's about the decision of China to manage their water, to cap the water use, and then everything came.
I'll just first answer the question for Mr. Mauritania, but it's just okay. All our programs, reports موجودين على الويب سايت Waterlution. هناك فيهم يكون كل البروجكتس اللي اطلقوهم الشباب ببروجرامنا موجودين على الويب سايت waterlution.org. و as a wrap up, innovation أنا بعتبرها it should be a local practice, however, with a global collaboration. Okay, thank you.
أنا حقيقة يعني مع تأثيرات التغيرات المناخية وتعدد وتنوع هذه المخاطر بين أعاصير، بين يعني حالات جوية متطرفة، شدة رياح قوية، غبار، ففي حاجة إلى وجود مثل هذه الأنظمة سواء كانت قطرية أو على الأقل إقليمية تجتمع فيها مجموعة من الدول لإنشائها. بحاجة مثل إنشاء هذه المراكز إلى تخطيط، ومحاجة إلى دعم مالي، ومحاجة إلى يعني فاينانس لإقامة مثل هذه المراكز وتنمية موارد بشرية طبعا. شكرا.
وفاء.
بس لو انه ليس لدينا خيار الا استخدام كل ما هو متوفر. بدك Indigenous Knowledge or Arab Knowledge، بدك Remote Sensing، إحصائيات. إذا ما بنربط كل هالأمور ببعضها we're not being able to move ahead. So let's use what we have, improve on what we have, and بيكون لصالحنا إنه to move on.
Yes, أنا بدي أقول أول شيء إنه as a private sector we need to work outside the factories because we have more impact outside the operation than inside the operation. And I would like to say also that we need to cooperate at the end all together, because the solution cannot come from one. The solution has to come from all. And also we can help in taking your innovation, implement it and scale it and share it.
شكرا. يعني ملخص الكلام اللي احنا اتكلمنا فيه اليوم هي منظومه متكامله. الرود مابينج للتكنولوجي منظومه متكامله. احنا مهم جدا ان احنا نعمل اسسمنت لايه المتاح عندنا في كل البلدان بتاعتنا، وبناء عليه بمنتهى البساطه احنا ينقصنا 1 2 3 ونبتدي نحط ليه خطه ونشتغل عليه. احنا هنا مش بدي مقترح او بدي نصيحه، لا احنا بقول اللي احنا عندنا دلوقتي في الاسكوا عندنا التولز دي متاحه وجاهزين اللي احنا نشتغل مع كل الارب ستيتس وكمان مع الهيئات والمنظمات الدوليه المشاركه معانا هنا. احنا على الرحب والسعه اللي احنا نتعاون معاكم ان شاء الله علشان ننفذ معاكم موضوع الرود مابينج ده على مستوى الدول وعلى مستوى المنظمات برضو اللي عايزه تشتغل في مجال التكنولوجي في مجال المياه. يعطيكم الف عافيه يا جماعه. شكرا.
Thank you. ما تواخذونا. We took time and we didn't take questions from others. Please, the panelists are amongst you. You can discuss this later. Take that opportunity, and I apologize to the organizers for taking this much time. Thank you.